Welcome back to Virtuous Woman TV. In today's video, we are going to be talking about standards, boundaries, and expectations. So before we get started, please like this video, make sure that you are subscribed to the channel, and also that you have your notification bells on. So listen, it's definitely not lost on me that black women have given up on black men and the whole dating experience in general. I mean, we know this because the black birth rate, I think, is down. I think I just read it said 1.58%. So white liberals, white feminism, the patriarchy, they've won. They've got us to stop procreating with each other. They've gotten us to stop populating the earth. And over time, we will definitely become extinct. Once white women are done colluding with the patriarchy and completing the mission of turning us against each other, they will start to repopulate. They will start to give birth to white babies, and we will be on the sidelines, if existing at all. Now, some people can call this a conspiracy theory. Listen, all I can tell you is that I'm batting 100. I don't think I've ever spoken anything on this here YouTube that hasn't been accurate or hasn't come to pass in some type of way, right? So I say that to say that I understand that black women have given up on the whole black men and black family thing. I get that. I understand that the education system has allowed black women to believe that they would be viable mates to men of other cultures, despite the fact that white women and Asian women still remain the preference to white men. But I understand that black women believe they have a chance, right? Despite the fact that white men, when they do date black women, it's usually black women from Africa or from the diaspora, from the Caribbean, but very seldom a black American westernized woman, right? It's not lost on me that this is where we're at with it, right? Having said that, eventually black women and black men are going to have to be together. I'm not saying that you don't have any other options. I'm saying that eventually you're going to end up right back where you started. That's just the reality of it, right? Having said that, I want to talk a little bit about what standards, boundaries, and expectations are, because I don't believe that because we're on the bottom of society that we have to take the lesser amongst each other. I think that you can still hold high standards of yourself, right? Because my belief is that standards are implied. They're not communicated verbally. And I think that black women can benefit from learning how to talk less, bridling the tongue, right? And let her actions and her way of carrying herself and the way that she moves, let that shit do the talking. But all of this big mouthing about what you is and ain't gonna do, what you is and ain't gonna take, what you need, what you ain't gonna need, all this bravado, this ego, humiliating men about their ability to provide or not provide. None of that is making you a viable mate or partner. All it's doing is isolating you and giving you an excuse. I remember a while back there was a content creator, and this man is short, maybe like 5'3". He has a walking stick, and he's middle-aged. And he had this impossible list for women, right? I think he wanted them in the Divine Nine. He wanted them to be 5'8". He wanted them to be 130 pounds. He wanted them to have 2 degrees. All of these things. And clearly things that he's not qualified. That a woman meeting those standards is not going to choose him, right? And it dawned on me, you are making your standards so high to justify why you don't have anybody. And I see that happening with a lot of black women, right? Black women out the gate are saying, you got to have a bag. You got to provide for me. You got to be this. You got to be that. And really, the women who talk like this are the least conventionally attractive women, right? They may be educated, but again, if you watch my video about educated women, they're leaning on that to supplement other qualities that they're lacking. which kind of balances and cancels it out, right? But what you see is people making it like their standards are so impossibly high to reach to justify why they're alone or why they're single, right? Now, let's start with expectations. A lot of black women, again, verbally, are displaying their expectations or expressing their expectations when it comes to men, which can be very off-putting, right? Regardless of your agenda for another human being, everyone wants to believe that you are seeking them for who they are in and of themselves, not what they bring to the table, not for how they can enhance the quality of your life, not how they can make you look good and be a piece of arm candy. Unlike women, men are not willing to be objectified, not men of substance. It's not a natural place for them. Now, women have been conditioned to accept objectification, right? But flipping the script on men, it's not going to work that easily. You have to sell them on something. And usually, what they want to be sold on is being loved for who they are, right? They're used to having to play roles like provider. They are in present day being conditioned to believe that they're worthless if they don't bring anything to the table, if they don't produce. So when you're coming into a relationship with a woman, that's just not the climate to reinforce some of those beliefs, even if that's your reality as a woman, right? The reality is, this is what I expect, or this is what I hope for, this is what I desire. And I want to be upfront in communicating that so I can't waste my time. But communication comes in a myriad of ways. You don't have to say that verbally. You don't have to say that with so much hubris and so much ego. You can just simply talk about it as part of the getting to know each other process and add some color and context with it. You know, I grew up like this, so having this in a partner is very important to me. You know, security is my number one thing that makes me attracted to men. When a man is stable, it makes me feel safe, right? Then you're giving him a visual of what he can provide and where he fits in, as opposed to saying, this is what I expect from you, dear stranger, if you want to breathe my air and be in my company because I'm so great. No, you're coming from that place because you don't have options, because you don't have anybody. It's not because you do, because if you did, you would have more grace. It's not a lack of time that you have. It's just that you're closed off, antisocial, and dare I say sociopathic, right? So communicating your expectations to a man can be done in many ways, right? And coming right out the bat and blurting things out is just uncouth. You need to show men why something is important for you. That's part of that motivation and speaking life. And if you are intent on getting what you want, then the pursuit of that should be mastered, don't you think? Right? So when talking about an expectation to a man, it's not saying, I expect a provider, I expect you to pay 100% of the bills, I expect this, I expect that. No, it's not about that. It's about bringing the conversations around to a point where you can discuss what your values are as human beings. As a human being, I value being provided for, because that allows me to relax. And when I'm relaxed, I feel like I can be more creative, more intimate, more sensual. When I feel like I'm a part of the rat race, I feel like I'm in competition mode, and I don't know, it makes me resentful. That's something that a man can understand, and that is something that he can take pride in, a problem he can take pride in solving. It's not you objectifying him and making him feel like you're God's greatest gift, even though he and you both know that you're not, right? Boundaries. A lot of women think that boundaries are lines of demarcation. And listen, I was the same type of woman. My boundaries were expressed differently. Like I said, I believe in relationships, women should be more nonverbal. That doesn't mean you don't be direct and you don't bottom line things and you don't speak up for yourself. It means that you create a mood behind everything that you want done, so that a man can take his own initiative. That's all I'm saying, right? However, my boundaries used to be communicated as kind of like a guard, right? And so the guard says you can't come here, 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 here. But through my spiritual journey, I went on a spiritual journey for about 3 years, I think. It showed me that that was more so an ego, right? And my ego was designed to not allow certain types of people or anybody to hurt me, right? And I communicated that inability to tolerate hurt with boundaries. So these boundaries communicated an air of, superiority or elitism or self-respect. But on the inside, it's kind of like your self-esteem is really crushed and you're trying to preserve the little bit of what you have, right? And so, again, that sends you into a lack mentality, a poverty mentality, and it blocks your abundance, right? So you think that you're protecting yourself. You think that you're closing yourself off to negativity and to people, and you're doing this out of a sense of confidence and esteem. But really, you're weakening your ego, right? It's not that you should tolerate things. It's that you should be able to handle a healthy exposure to disappointment so that you can get to things that actually make you happy, because they all come from the same place, which is outside of you, right? So a lot of women think that boundaries are actually things that lock people out. And that's not what a boundary is. A boundary is actually something internal. A boundary is you refusing to forget where you end and another person begins. A boundary is when you become enmeshed, right? And saying that your life is my life, right? Now, the way that a lot of women violate their own boundary, internal boundary, which is something that many women are not familiar with, is by encroaching on another man's territory, right? So when you go into a man's life and you're demanding access to things, or you're violating his privacy, you are blurring the lines, right? You're crossing your own boundaries because you're believing that you have ownership over this person, or that you and this person are one, and that you're entitled to every part of this person, including their faithfulness and loyalty. I hate to say it. Those are things that we can hope for and wish for, but it's not something that we can expect, right? Because you're dealing with another human being. And if you respect your own boundaries, or if you have your own boundaries in place, then you understand things like sovereignty. You understand things like autonomy. And your management of a man, his personalities, his emotions, his affairs, his encroachment upon your soul is a violation of boundaries, right? And so then the way that it manifests is them violating your boundaries, right? Them doing all kind of things to remind you that you ain't them. They don't have to move like you. They don't have to think like you. They don't have to operate like you. They don't have to hold the same moral code as you. And you have to have a healthy dose of tolerance in order to be able to stomach a human being being different from you and still choose to relate to that person and respect them and love them as an individual, part of your journey, right? If he's there to mirror and mimic your imagination, is that really a real person, right? If he's there to reinforce long-held beliefs and delusions that you have, is that a real person, or is that you respecting that person and their boundaries, right? So I say that to say that a lot of people think that boundaries is something that is external, and it's not. It's your internal kind of like measure reminding you that you and this person are two separate people. And if you're not encroaching on his territory, then it's natural that he will not be allowed to encroach on yours. If he's not encroaching on your territory, then that means he's not pulling you into his dilemmas. He's not pulling you out of your feminine energy. He's not violating you without consequence, because he understands that you're an individual, right? I'm an individual. I'm on a certain journey, and this is what I'm looking for as a part of my journey. You already painted that mood with your expectations, right? He knows from there that how he operates, and whether or not you put up with that is not an emotional thing. It's not a personal thing. It's that this woman is clear in who she is and what she stands for and what she wants, and either I'm with that shit or I'm not, or either who I am compliments her or it doesn't, right? But that's communicated first by you respecting your own boundaries, right? And not allowing yourself to get enmeshed in another person's life, right? And we do that when we become obsessed. We do that when we chase. We do that when we monitor and control. We do that when we watch tarot readings. We do that when we have all these standards. All of that is violating a person's human rights. That's whether you want to believe that or not. And that's why a lot of black women are not successful in relationships, because we don't understand the concept of freedom, or even the illusion of it, right? We can't even provide an illusion. Most men are willing to commit. Most men, if they're there and they're sticking around, is because they like you. But a lot of them are deathly afraid of losing their freedom. And their freedom does not always extend to sleeping with other women. But if they want to be friends with one, or acknowledge the beauty of another, or take a trip, or not come home, or not answer to someone, they just want to know that they can, and that it's not jeopardizing their value as a man by rejecting them or abandoning them, right? Not that they will, right? They just want to know that they can. So that's why they're setting up a series of all of these dumbass tests that they send women through, to see if them flexing any autonomy is going to cost them you. And if it does, by way of an attitude, a timeout, a breakup, then more than likely, long term, they're not going to see it for you, and nothing else matters, right? So boundaries, once again, are not something that you're setting up externally. That's called a guard. That's called an ego. A boundary is an internal measure, or an internal, something to let you know that this is a whole human being in and of himself, and I am a whole different human being in and of myself. We are not one. We do not have the same mind frame, thought process, mentality, and I'm still willing to engage as long as it is a compliment to my vision of self and not something that's the antithesis, right? Standards. Standards, like I mentioned in the beginning, are implied by the way that you carry yourself. Standards never have to be communicated. It says the Bible says a woman leads a man to God by virtue of the way that she lives her life. Be consistent. Be loyal to yourself. Have integrity to yourself in the way you move in your day-to-day life. And the standard is implied, right? But what happens instead is that a lot of us women betray ourselves through our mouths. We say one thing and we do another. We set all these moods about what we expect and what we ain't gonna tolerate, and next thing you know, we get, dick whipped, whatever you want to call it. I ain't even blame it on the penis. I blame it on the mind games. But whatever it is, you get swept up, and you breaking all the rules, right? He was a provider and now he's not, right? But some men come in with the intention of showing you something just to get you to invest, right? He was the greatest lover in the world when he swept me up the first few times. Now he want me to do all the work. He was this, he was that. But guess what? You still stick around, right? I'll never be with a cheater, but you're constantly forgiving, right? So the first thing he's recognizing is your instability and disloyalty to yourself, right? She's not consistent. She's just like a child. She's just talking, right? So the standards for you are, I do whatever I want to do. I deal with her attitude and crisis management, and then it's on to the next. He's not forced to take you seriously or respect what you're saying, because on a consistent basis, you're violating your own self always, right? You're gossiping. You're talking about people. You're wasting time. None of this is giving alarm sounds to a man that he needs to be high value. No, he can just be a common hood rat, because that's what you are, right? So, to have all these standards, it doesn't come from the mouth. It comes from the conduct. It comes from him observing you and watching you over a period of time and looking for things like loyalty to yourself, self-preservation, consistency, not being a hypocrite or double-minded or double-tongued. And if you can't hold that standard for yourself, then you don't have no standards for him as far as he sees. Now, don't mistake a man that's acquiescing with you on these standards, boundaries, and expectations to be with your program. No, he's not. Most likely, he's playing a game. He's building resentment and internally disrespecting you, or not holding any respect for you, and hating himself all the while because of it, until it gets projected onto you and you start to feel like, this man really hates me. And it's like, no, he hates himself for being with a woman that he doesn't respect, right? So anyways, wanted to shed light on that. I know that's a common term used in Black women empowerment, but I'm seeing how it's failing Black women, and I think that there's a different way of looking at that. So this is my way. You can let me know your way down in the comment section. I hope you enjoyed this video. I also hope you check me out on Soft Souls at Etsy, SOFSOLES, and I will see you on the next one. Don't forget to smash that like button and make sure that you are subscribed to my channel. Peace.